kumkumikati. Aladira uwe uya shikumkumikati. La sharanarara. Iyahau. What's up? What's up? We make a fuss, concept of a piece at times. Alikuli tumaye chiminya tata, cause that's true. The humming up window, the canopana yebo tata. Tata, nili moko tata. Tata, ponse wanyata. Nesta na totu wa sendo, shita shibi mwana shenda. Nankale, nankale, nankale. Nankale, bali nankale, nankale. Bali kuti, bali kuti nankale. Yes, so good evening indeed. I've seen already some people. I'm a tempers na yambo kukwela chilishani benefit bueno. Mwaisa pa platform immediately mwambo kula sabaira. Mwaisa poshani ngatamule fo kufyumfa takuli kuisapo. So today I watched the press briefing yaba Hari Kalaba. Ba Hari Kalaba bachilalanda nama theories yabo but Hari Kalaba is a dreamer. Hari Kalaba, that man is a dreamer. He was dreaming at you see, there was unit. It stayed in power. for 27 years, but they went. Then there was what is this? There was MMD. They went. Then came PF. They went. Badiesha, whatever Ningalato, but they went. It is a fact. When a political party comes into power, it is a fact that at one point it will go away. It is a fact. But this is not happening this year. So idana nikane contamination ya bachila panga bantu nikane bahari karaba. Constastination bachila panga bahari karaba. Tayachila panga na sense. Tayachila panga na sense. UNIP was there. Yadira. Then came mtu nikane yadira. It is true. It is true. And the truth be told, even UPND at one point they will go, but certainly they are not going this year. Certainly they are not going this year. Hakainde Hichilema is continuing. And I don't want to open a Pandora's box for now, but I would want President Hakainde Hichilema, to serve a little bit longer. Because, Hakainde Hichilema, it's only now that he is getting grips of things. And in the next term, I think they'll still be working on these issues of debt and the economy before we can start talking about, the growing the economy, so to say, growing the economy. So I would want, UPND to stay a little bit longer so that we can have some continuity. Because if we are going to be changing power every now and then, it actually deters development. It doesn't help development. So from my perspective, I really think that at one point we need to have, stability at the leadership level. Of course, elections should be there. But to limit presidents with 2 terms and all, I don't think it is good for a growing economy. To limit presidents. This idea of another person comes in, it doesn't help us. And I really wish that at one point we can make a decision that a person who is performing should, be there for some time. If you're not performing, people will be there to vote you out. I don't have a problem with opening up, president running for more than 1 term, because when there are elections, if somebody is not performing, that person can be removed using the elections. I don't understand when people say, no, then it is not democracy. What do you mean? Anyway, that is a story for another day. Tonight, I want to talk about the legal issues around the PF, because some of you may not have followed properly the legal issues that surrounds the PF. So tonight, we are simply looking at the legal issues surrounding PF. What are the cases around PF? Some of you are talking about 27. You don't even know what judgment is coming. There is an injunction. There is a case in Kabwe. There is a case before Judge Concepta Zulu. What are these cases? This is what I want us to look at. And then, today we'll look at this. Today is Wednesday. On Friday, I want us to look at the ECZ electoral calendar. We are already in the electoral mood. So we need to understand how things will be unfolding going forward till August 18th. For tonight, it's about the PF. one thing that I've been saying myself, that PF, I don't see PF on the ballot papers. I don't see on the ballot box. I don't see PF on the ballot box. Though some people, they think that, they can salvage PF and, bring it to the elections. I don't think that is happening. I don't think that is happening. Even those who are jostling, who are striving, to lead PF, like Avena Manukula, they think they can be able to stand on PF. They can never stand on PF. They can never stand on PF. And I've told you that Manukula, as it were, he is a void president. Malukula doesn't have a party. He doesn't have a party. He's not a president for PF. He's not a president for PF. He is not a president for PF. And what I'm saying is actually true, because with the ex-party that has been filed by Ngona, I see Makebi Zulu and his friends, filing affidavits swearing to say, no, I was not elected president for PF. You will see they will swear affidavits saying, I am not president for PF. So if Malukula is not president for PF, then he's a president for which political party? Are they going to say they are going, they had a convention for Pamosi Alliance? Pamosi Alliance is not registered. Pamosi Alliance is not registered. So at the moment, wherever they are, now Ikaba, they are thinking, how are we going to come out of this? How are we going to, to survive this contempt? Because if they say they held the elections under PF, then they are in contempt. They will go to jail. Contempt valakaka. Vantu valengira 6 months so for contempt. So they can never say we had the convention for PF. But if they didn't have a convention for PF, then what? Now, I want to go back, to take you back to where all these things started, where all these legal battles started. And slowly, so I haven't slept today, so because slow, I can even feel my brain. Tairi shinguluka sana fast. Le shinguluka slow, ngato ayocha konati. So the whole confusions starts with Mao Sampa. Or, to be fair to Mao Sampa, we can say it starts with Edgar Lungu. When Edgar Lungu lost those elections, the agreement was that Edgar Lungu was going to resign. Okay? He actually resigned. He wrote a letter to cabinet saying that he has resigned. He even wrote a letter to PF that he has resigned. Unfortunately, it was somehow, Lungu didn't want to let go of PF. He had resigned, but he didn't want to let go of PF. How? He held on to PF and he couldn't allow a convention because they needed to go for a convention so that they elect a new leader. But Lungu was diddy-dallying on that one. I am one of those people that interacted with a number of senior PF members, including Edgar Lungu, on the issue of the convention. Because I saw that PF was becoming weak. And I looked at PF as the former ruling party and the biggest opposition political party. We need an effective opposition political party, to do checks and balances on UPND. Even today, I still maintain that much as I'm supporting President Hakainde Hichilema and the UPND, I still stand that we need a strong opposition to offer checks and balances to the UPND. So at that time, I think 2022, I engaged a number of PF senior leaders, including Walungu, to say, we need a leader so that PF can tick. Walungu was reluctant. Here, whatever. That's how I came up with the issue of Munduvile, to say, oh, okay. Anyway, Walungu said, you can choose anyone. Me, I've done my part. So pick on anyone. I went out and I came up with the name of Munduvile. I went back to Walungu. Walungu said, yeah. No, he's a good guy. Hey, run with that. That is how I started. Munduvile. And you saw that campaign gained momentum. It got traction. And somehow, Walungu changed his mind. He changed his mind and said, no. I think whatever. He didn't say clearly to say therefore kuwela. He just brought into my issues here and there. Anyway, I could see that he wanted to come back. That's how now we changed now from Munduvile to Alebwirirapo. Meanwhile, they had asked candidates, and follow me very well. Meanwhile, they had asked candidates to say, can you, those who want to participate, those who want to, to take over, to succeed Walungu, can make their applications. And they pay a fee, I think it was 200 or 250,000. And a number of them paid. I think about 7 of them paid. 7 of them, I think, paid. I think if I remember, Mutote Kafuaya, Chitaruchi Rufia, GBM, Manuel Mwamba, Bran Munduvile, who else was there? Bradford, that guy, Bradford Monde, and one more guy, another guy, Bachimba Kambwidi. They paid, and they were waiting for PF to go for the convention. Ukukusai juku, kwa kwatio alebwelirapo. Meanwhile, abantu alilipila, ama Antoine Kani, na Antoine Kani, na Emmanuel, na Mao Sampawin. So, as that confusion was going on, Mao Sampa, made some comments which he made Given Luwinda and some other PF members upset. What do? They kick out Mao's. They suspended Mao's. Later on, they expelled Mao's. When they did that to Mao's was upset. You can't call us to say prayer convention but mulekana. Meanwhile, ukumulechata lewelirapo. So Mao Sampa did a coup d'etat mu PF. He went and staged a convention on October 24th, 2023. He came up with that convention and he installed himself president of PF. Walungu Bashala Pamabwe. Bashala Panse, together with his members. As they were, when now Mao Sampa took over that, I was involved and I was like, talk to Mao Sampa, let's talk to Mao Sampa and whatever. Efforts were there to talk to Mao Sampa so that they can resolve the issues. Meanwhile, Maozi fired or expelled those 8 MPs, Bran Munduvile and others, if you remember. The case is Bran Munduvile and others. Bran Munduvile, Mutote Kafuaya, Kampiongo, Wanani. I think there were 8 of them. He expelled them. So when he expelled them, these guys went to court. So this is the case number 1. When Mao Sampa expelled this for protesting against him, he expelled them. And when he expelled them, they went to court challenging Mao's authority to expel them. Okay? Challenging Mao's authority to expel them. So this is the case number 1. And remember, I said that there were also now engagements trying to talk to Mao Sampa. Anyway, in talking to Mao Sampa, it ended up in a consent agreement whereby those 8 withdrew their cases. That case was settled. They withdrew their cases because they reconciled. Meanwhile, now they needed to reconcile with Edgar Lungu. Mao's had to reconcile with Edgar Lungu. And of course, those meetings, those negotiations went well. That is how you saw Mao Sampa sitting with Edgar Lungu, sipping a cup of tea. So, case number 1, uko Yama MPs, then ukuk side uku, Mao Sampa goes and tries to reconcile with Edgar Lungu. When Ngona and Chavinga saw that, they were threatened because Ngona knew that if Mao Sampa takes back PF Kuliba Lungu, Ngona will no longer be a Secretary General. Number 2, Chavinga, he will not be the leader of opposition. Chavinga enjoys privileges of being leader of opposition. He enjoys a government vehicle. He enjoys a big office at parliament. And he didn't want to lose that. So these two, they protested against Mao's. And when they protest against Mao's, what does Mao's do? Mao's expels them. He expels them. He expels the Chavinga. He expels the Ngona. When these two saw that, what do? They went to court. They went to court challenging Mao's, saying, no, Mao Sampa doesn't have powers to expel us. Mao Sampa doesn't have powers to expel us. And this is the case that came before Judge Concepta Zulu. After that, PF Uku, they continued, with their activities, and they appointed Brenda Nyirenda as a acting general secretary. I think it was deputy general secretary. So when they appointed a substantive as secretary general. Balungu appointed her, Brenda Nyirenda appointed her as secretary general. Ngona went and sued Brenda Nyirenda in her capacity as secretary general of this PF, where Ngona is saying, no, this woman cannot be masquerading as PF secretary general. I am the secretary general. I am the only PF secretary general. Okay? So this makes now, if you like, 3 cases. But remember, the first case was settled in a consent judgment. In a consent judgment. So kwashara 2 cases now. One where Ngona and Chavinga, they are suing Mao's to say, no, this guy cannot fire us. We are the legitimate ones. And in fact, the president now is Chavinga, because they actually fired Mao's and installed Chavinga as president. So 2 cases now. One case, Chavinga and Ngona suing Mao Sampa, saying Mao Sampa cannot fire us. If anything, we are the ones that have fired Mao's. In that matter, Mao's also counter-sued. He also counter-sued to say, these people, they also fired me. They have got no powers to fire me. So, both sides. Then we have another case which is in Kawe. In Kawe, where Ngona is saying there should be no one to masquerade as PF. There should be no one to masquerade as PF. I'm the only one. I'm the only one. We are the true PF, not these others. So I hope you have followed so far 2 cases. One Ngona saying Mao doesn't have powers because Ngona saw Mao's sitting na Walungu. He said, no. Ala tubika pamabwe. Ala tubika pamabwe. They kicked him out and they went to court. Okay? Ukuk side, they also go to Kabwe and say no one should masquerade as PF. So that injunction is still there. There is a case that is in Kabwe which is saying that no one should act in the name of PF. No one. Ngona, I'm the only PF whatever. I'm the only PF guy. Then there is another case that came up where Brian Munduwile and the Nakachinda, they sued Mao's. They sued Mao's. And they said, Mao's, ila convention akwete, it was a bogus one. It was a fake one. So they are asking the court that the court must bring back the records of PF to where they were before Mao's staged that convention. They are saying the records at the registrar must go back to where they were before Mao's came up with that convention. So, three cases. And this case here kwa Brian Munduwile na Raphael Nakachinda. This is the case that is supposed to come for judgment on the 27th. Supposed to come up on the 27th. And the judgment is supposed to be ruled. The judge or the court will be looking at whether they should go back, whether the records of PF should go back to where they were before Mao's staged a convention. In that case, this is where you saw Mao's coming up, trying to sign a consent judgment to say, okay, I agree that convention was fake. Because once Mao says that convention is fake and the records go back to where they were before the convention, it means Ngona and Chavinga, they are out. They are automatically out. If the records are brought back to where they were, Ngona and Chavinga, they are out. Okay? So Mao Sampa wanted to do a first one. He wanted to do a first one through a consent. Ekalaka consent, no, but why is the judge not signing a consent? Why is the judge not signing the consent? The judge did not sign that consent because Ngona and Chavinga, they joined that matter and they said, this guy, what is saying that no, that convention was not real. It is not true. It was real. That convention was real, was legitimate. That convention was legitimate. So Mao Sampa, he came up to say, no, it was fake. Ngona and Chavinga, they come up, they say, no, it was genuine. It was genuine. It was a legitimate convention. So then the judge said, how can I sign a consent? And I think now you can appreciate why the judge did not sign that consent. Because there were like three parties. There were three parties. There was Munduwile and Raphael Nakachinda saying, please get back to where we started, to where we were before this confusion came. And Mao Sampa comes up and says, yes, actually, that convention was fake. So here is a consent judgment. I agree with Nakachinda and Brian Munduwile. Meanwhile, there is Chavinga and Ngona saying, no. That convention was genuine. It was legitimate. So how can a judge sign a consent there? How can a judge sign a consent? Some of you were busy trying to insult that judge. You were insulting her. Hey, she has refused to sign a consent. How would have a judge signed a consent when there are three parties? How? The two parties agree, but this other party doesn't agree. How can a judge sign that consent? How? So some of these things, though you like to, judge, judges, I think you are just not fair. And especially that Judge Concepta, I think he PF, imwe bavuvuzela imwe utwina nani kano atikashanya kakachea kachea na bambi uko. You need to apologize to that judge for the way you spoke against her. You spoke against her. But imagine with what I'm telling you, how can a judge sign a consent judgment when there are three parties, two parties agree, one party does not agree? How can she sign that consent judgment? It is not possible. So that case went to trial. And in the trial, Ng'ona and Chavinga, they have maintained to say that convention was legitimate. Meanwhile, Mao Sampa has also U-turned. When they went for trial, Mao Sampa has U-turned and is saying, yes, the convention was legitimate, except I am the president and not a Chavinga. You see, this is what Mao's now said. When they went for trial, Mao said, no. It was genuine, except I am the president and not Chavinga. So this is where there is a challenge now between the two of them. Uyu Maozi na Chavinga aba ibile PF. They are now fighting. They are fighting between themselves. One separate claim to be the owners of PF, and one separate claim to no, the convention was genuine. Meanwhile, Rafael Nakachinda and Brian Mundubile, they are saying no, that convention was not genuine. This is a judgment that is coming up on the 27th. Now, what are the possible outcomes? The possible outcomes are that the court could rule to say the records must go back to where they were before the October convention. Or they can rule to say, okay, that convention was genuine. Okay? That convention was genuine. Meaning, it will now remain between Ng'ona and Mao Sampa, who are the owners. Okay? Who are the owners? It will remain between the two. If the judge rules that no, the record should go back to where they were, Ng'ona and the Chavinga, together with Mao Sampa, they fall off. It means PF goes back to where they were, where Lungu was president. Okay? It will go back to that. But one would be excited to say, no, then everything is sorted out. No, then everything is not sorted out. Why is everything not sorted out? Why everything is not sorted out is that right now, you are trying to say you have elected a leader. You have elected Makebi as the successor of Edgar Lungu. Meanwhile, you are Uyunankane Brian Mundubile, the one that that went to court together with Nakachinda. You are saying this one has been expelled. He's no longer our member. You see? So if you think of it, after Barulinga in favor of Brian Mundubile and Rafael Nakachinda, do you think Brian Mundubile akaleka pofie? Brian Mundubile takaleke pofie. And mind you, Brian Mundubile was not only acting for himself. Brian Mundubile was acting together with others. He was acting, on behalf of other members. So those other members, including those who paid money to be part of the presidential candidates, and some of those people who paid were not part of the people that were eligible to be elected in the last convention where this Makebi Zulu was elected. They were not part of it. So those who paid their money, when these matters are resolved, if, for example, the PF is given back to where it was, if the records are reset to where they were, it means those who had paid the monies who come to say we want to contest. And Makebi was saying, no, I've already been elected. It is not possible. It is not possible. It is a confusion. It is a confusion. And the worst thing is that some of these people who were part of these litigations, they have thrown them out to say, you are no longer PF members. So out of that, in my view, I expect some litigations. It won't be resolved. It won't be resolved. It won't be resolved. Because Makebi Zulu has been want only to be the leader. He has ignored all these other things. He just wants to be elected. And yet there is this background. And I know these other people will not just sit back and let Makebi Zulu, wakamuruishishe, wakamupe, tetfibombe. I don't think it will work. But then, if they give Mao Sampa, if they say, no, that convention was genuine, Mao Sampa and Ngona, as well as Chavinga, they have to fight it out. Who is the owner? That situation has arisen in that case where Ngona and Chavinga sued Mao's. And in that case, what happened was that when Ngona sued Mao's, they did not file. They filed. What do you call? They filed originating summons. Now let me make it. I want to make it in a way that everybody can understand. So what happened is Ngona and Chavinga, they sued Mao's. When they sued Mao's responded to say, abantu aba tebe neba PF. But tebe neba PF. And in fact, I'm also suing them. Okay? So he responded to their issues and he also sued them. Ngona and Chavinga, they were supposed to respond. They were supposed to respond to what Mao's had said, and they were supposed to respond to the counter suing. Unfortunately, they didn't. So when they didn't, after some time, I think about 4 months, Mao Sampa went to court and said, these people are not serious. They don't want to prosecute the case. They have not responded, and they have not followed the court directives because the court gave directives. They gave the time frame in which these guys were supposed to file in their defense and their response, but they didn't do it. So when they didn't do that, Mao Sampa went back to say, these guys are not serious. So that case was thrown out on technicality because they didn't respond and they didn't file in a defense to the counter claim of Mao Sampa. They didn't. So that case was thrown out in the High Court. After it was thrown out in the High Court, Ngona appealed. Okay? Ngona appealed. So as we are talking, that case is in the Court of Appeal now. It is in the Court of Appeal where Ngona is saying, no. We were looking at preliminaries. We were just confused. Otherwise, we want to prosecute this case. We are ready to push in our defense. Hey, you can't just throw us. You can't just throw us. We want to push in our defense. So it has gone to the Court of Appeal. So Chavinga, Ngona, and Mao Sampa, they are still fighting over PF. Meanwhile, Ukuk side, Brand Mundubire and Rafael Nakachinda, Mao Sampa, and Chavinga, and whatever, they are also battling it out. So these are the cases that were there. Now, with the Given Luvinda and the other guys going for a convention, they violated that case of Kabwe, whereby Ngona said no one should masquerade as PF and no one should change anything. So by them going into that convention, they committed contempt. unless they say, no, the convention we held was not PF. If they say that, then Makebi Zulu is not a president for PF. And I'm sure this is what they will be filing in court to say, no, it was not PF. I don't know if I have left you somewhere, but your questions will help me to clarify where I've left you. Your questions will help me to clarify where I've left you. But I've tried to explain. That is the number there. Those of you watching on TikTok, the number is in the bio. Yeah, the number is in the bio. You can call and ask on this, on what I've explained. Let love lead. He's saying keep dreaming. Dreaming what? He's saying keeping dreaming. Dreaming what? Praise singer who follows you, they are all down. They can't even see what is happening in ECL's wishes. Yo wishes mulanda pa yaba Edgalungu wishes fyabufi. You just wish, you just use it to mbicha muntu ati yo lungu ala ndirefi fyabufi. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes.
I just want you to clarify on something.
Yes.
That is just like the Tonse Alliance, the difference between the Tonse Alliance and the Patriotic Front.
You see, the difference, first of all, to start with, Patriotic Front is a registered party. Much as it is having its issues, Patriotic Front is a registered party. Tonse is an alliance formed by different political parties where even PF belonged. Tonse was formed with other political parties. It is not a political party. PF is a political party which belongs in the Tonse alliance together with other political parties. However, recently we heard that they kicked out PF. They removed PF. But Tonse, they removed PF. Meaning they remained with FDD and the other political parties. I don't know which political parties are there. So basically, Tonse is an alliance. It is not a political party. PF is a political party. Mundubile is president of Tonse, but it is not a political party. And even when they go for elections, Mundubile will not be able to stand on Tonse. He will most likely stand on FDD, which is part of the member of Tonse. I hope that answers your question. Boss, be like JJ. Don't change cards. You'll be left alone. Me, I want people to speak reason. I want people to speak reason. Hello?
Batayadi muleto
Emkwa.
Na chapa pati njipsheko kwena diapsa na pano no ere pshojandi but I think imo iwenga kupera ko information. Na chapa pati njipshate ba membe ba mdala. Was there something really, really big that happened between him Naba Ichadenga, Ichim Patania, or something really happened? Because if we really trace back, operation and it also, when we look back in the past, it looks like now. Number urupatanyo ludia na yako ati urufimbira la moneka nikuisa. Is there a source that maybe you could enlighten us with so that tuishwe ichako ati ngumdala lechita criticize hapa shirifia fia kupanga sense twice but okay ififia tulida hapa na nachapa ati mutuishibishia kupelea hapo na kono kumwachiranda ama topics mlandile. But nachapa maybe it could be a framework that we can understand this man every time he has an interview and he's just talking about HH. Thank you, I'm done.
Thank you. You see, one thing that you people have to understand, which I keep repeating here, that most of these politicians, most of us, we create. Hey, I'll respond to that one. I'll respond. Let me take this. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Good evening.
Hello, good evening. Mwenyina ne wavuka shani na ponga luchero nga woshiku koli.
Woshiku.
Woshiku, okay. Nine washawe kuno.
Emkwe.
Iyo kwenye fuwarondo ramune. Ipe wino. Sile panga sense. Issue inayo ninganda kwa yakutila. The biggest problem, origin, uyumu ya shaletila root cause. Root cause ya ipi dintu balungu bafumine pakutia tiona. Newa na taya no kushirapo umuntu usha kwete amaka ya kutungulula. Confusion tulipo. So nothing personal pali wa given Luvinda, but ability ya kutungulula kwena kwa titala kwete. He is a very nice fellow and everything else. Number. Going forward, apart, to tell you the truth, tapali umwine watch pani called PF.
Tapali.
Tapali umwine watch pani. That is, if I was a judge, tapali umwine watch pani PF. Elio, number 2, there is no honor among thieves. Wakawala. Why village panipa 23 October lidia bana baisa mwibira so kabwala la pali kabwala so every the game up so two thieves are fighting for the stolen property now ngamafunde ya charo ngawaisa motoka ya kuiba na ngaiwa motoka na wao inewa washire motoka ni shwalivire so the one who got stolen PF is a thief. And the one who also owned the so-called PF is a thief when records were changed. Now, if the courts are going to return any sanity unto themselves, apata pali umwenewa PF. That's number 1. Number 2, number 3, yo ine mulandi wa kutira tiba mundu vile. Ewa sore yo mata ya kukabwe.
No.
Mundu vile.
Ili murusaka
batirati ama records yabuerere kufo yali umwine alifo umwine wa game starting isio alifo so bamundu bile kutuba safe ya kutirati no mbama records yabuerera back to there, but it's me who took this matter to court. And I'm a presidential candidate so apopala wa issue so
exactly
mbwene tukwela kutirati ifyo mbwene kutirati pali mata tule mpote tubangona bashani I don't think that kuti fia wakosera sana ba MZ. I don't think so because taba bompeshishne ya PF edo alishi veni lawyer so pata pali wafya sana. But the problem here is actually in the judge's court. What they are going to state there is actually going to have a very big impact on EPF. But utu achenjela tuarifumamo kare. Utu achenjela tuarifumamo me I don't want to be part and parcel of this matter which is in court. Because whichever way you look at it, this PF matter is in court. But if I was a judge, I would simply say utachapata pali umwine mwewe shiroko mwaka wala so that if the records have to get back to where they were before the property was stolen, I think that can be the only legitimate situation because pakati hapa pali kawala aiviroyo na oba mwivira, so you can't be sorting out things between the teams. So I want to pakati hapa which are they are not legitimate. They baba umpeshe ufu mfundungu bakutira each panikiwe figure. So a problem ilikuwa but root cause ya a problem as I said they were given Luwinda. Ili wali bakweteleza fe ya kutira balungu bafumako abantu bayitira ma 200 pin they were 200 pin bafiro utira tubaye convention because I don't know what he was waiting for. So kabwala la umwaisa baki mukai kuso mpola echa kabwala la sompola now ali shiya banangu utacha yo ibira tunaenda kuibira. So there is no honor among us. So the issue that we are dealing with here is that there is no legitimate owner of PF as we speak. If people were to be honest, they could say that, okay, once Kabola, the mobile expel, number one, convention, was a 2 years into maybe that is what can come out. But otherwise, each panina or naura, Abantu Navava divided, and the problem which they cannot understand is that Ngachakutila situation yava the way it is. Bamundu Bravalia, Urupanda Mirako Vaya, but MZ Navo, Navesa, Navo Ava Quato Luguaro, now Varimu Parliament. So the supporters of PF, Quina ma supporters our Dr. Willa Joseph Mutolo, South Africa, and he also has got a strong following. So you're talking about 4 or 5 factions within PF. Now, if these 4 people, if these 4 leaders, 4 or 5 leaders, don't come together, I can tell you the truth that UPND does not need to rig the elections.
No.
The people that are rigging the elections on behalf of UPND are these 4 or 5 leaders. If I was a senior counsel to them, I could have told them to say, look, you 4 or 5, don't bring in any other 6th person or 5th person. Go and sit down under a tree, resolve it. Amongst you, give us 1%. Then PF can be resolved. The reason this matter of PF, why it cannot be resolved, Pantu, 2 moment, 4 or 5. Maybe probably 2 or 3 that are actually working with the system. Everybody we know that the system is in a system. We think it's a problem. But the bottom line is that the PF is eating itself inside. Because the Payumwine, Timoche PF that Washinganda, Yakutera, the Nawashana farm, and they don't care how the farm is going to be managed because what is for? This is where the situation is.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. From here is like an imposition. That's what we draw from here is that to fully support the succession plan at any given situation. Otherwise, this situation will continue for the next 50 years for the country. Thank you, boy.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So I'll go back to the question of that gentleman to say, why is Vamembe so bitter against UPND? And I was trying to say that usually I'm a politician to adequate ama interest. And when your interests are not met, if you are hoping that you alakwa for my interest you, and if you are not helped, you become bitter. And you start saying all sorts of things. Hello? 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 So, from my assessment, Fred Membe, HHE. Hello? 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 Hello?
Hello, Askia.
Yes.
Mwabomba
Wina.
Kende wazuru kuchambesh kupopa beo.
Yes, Bazulu.
PF amaleshe na PF tapalo ko ideya. Ya penakani. So in the mbakula given within the group and joining basi eronga UPA. Isen go UPA di prekavira abantu isenya be kwingi. Tutuale chironga no pantanchi. Mukurekeresha. bakopa belt maro kateka alisa then tukeni yale ndituka support kateka alisa kopa belt for 2 days washikia na totera mumbi omtendi
chesu mana totera hello hello anyway I need to pick a phone call. I've seen a text message. I need to speak to somebody very important, so I will end here because I need to interact with this person. I'm sure you have followed these court cases. Basically, at the moment we are looking at 3 court cases. The first one where Ngona and Chavinga sued Mao Sampa to say, take 2 times, you can't chase us. And then Mao Sampa responded to say, no, I'm the legitimate president and you have fired me also. So that case is there between Mao Sampa and Chavinga. This is the case that Chavinga and Mao's lost technically, but they have appealed. And they have been given an order that they should remain in office until the matter is resolved. It is now in the Court of Appeal. From there, we have another case which is in Cabo where Chavinga and Ngona, they are saying no one should masquerade as PF. So even that convention cannot be held because of that case which is in Cabo. Then from there, we have another case where Brian Munduwile and Raphael Nakachinda, they have sued Maos to say ila convention bakwete ya fake. So we want the records to go back to where they were. This is the judgment that is supposed to come on 27th August, if indeed it will be delivered. If it is delivered, if the judge says no, the records should go back to where they were as before, it means these other cases, they fall off. But the problem that will come is that Brian Munduwile and other members who paid them 200 to go for a convention, some of them did not participate in the convention where Makebi was elected. I'm sure they will want another convention so that a leader can emerge. But if you look at also, if you look at Makebi Zulu doesn't have a ground because they cannot hold a convention whilst there is a case in court. So today, I don't know if it's today or yesterday, Ngona filed a contempt case against Makebi Zulu and the group. I am very sure they will go to court and they will be saying, no, the convention we held was not PF. And if they say was not PF, then indeed, Makebi Zulu cannot be called a PF leader. And of course, we have Vena Munduwile and others who are also saying, no, that convention, we don't recognize it until we are done in court. So these are the cases around PF. Allow me to end here so that I can take a very important call. Somebody sent me a text message that, we need to talk. So may God bless you. May God bless Zambia. Good night. On Friday, we'll talk about the ECZ electoral calendar, especially those of you who are contesting. I think you need to hear, what is going to be happening between now and August. It is important that we follow the calendar. ECZ has been very clear on what is going to be happening, including the day when they will announce the presidential winner, the president-elect. They have tabulated everything. Really, ECZ, much as people want to throw shade on ECZ are doing a wonderful job. I think we need to commend Bamwangala Zalomis for the work that she's doing together with the other people that they are working. ECZ really, some of us who understand these things, who understand elections, organizing elections, we can see and appreciate the job that ECZ are doing. The problem twakwata vamwe abantu mulanda fechilandelande, you don't understand issues, and yet you speak the loudest, but you don't understand what is involved. You are so ignorant on some of these things, and yet mumlalandikisha. If you really understood the technicalities of elections, you would appreciate the job that ECZ has done so far. Anyway, I have to go back.